The government is the body responsible for the federal governance of Canada. The constitutional monarchy, the Crown is the only organ of government with separate roles: executive, legislative, and judicial. The executive is the Crown in Council, the legislative is the Council of State, the courts of the Privy Council or Cabinet, and the Parliament of Canada. The judiciary is the exercise of the powers of the Crown. Through the Constitution Act 1867, under the constitutional monarchy, the Queen plays a pivotal role as the foundation of the executive, legislative, and judicial branches of the Canadian government. The plenipotentiary representative of Queen Elizabeth II in Canada is currently the head of state, Mary Simon. The current Prime Minister is Justin Trudeau, who is the head of government after securing the confidence of the House of Commons. Other elements of governance are set out in the rest of the Canadian Constitution, including written statutes in addition to court decisions and unwritten conventions that have developed over the centuries. Constitutional monarchy. Canada is a constitutional monarchy in which the role of the reigning ruler is both de jure and practical, but not political. This means that the Queen or King of Canada is the head of state, while the Prime Minister is the head of government. The Queen is represented by a Governor-General, who is appointed by the Queen on the advice of the Prime Minister for a normal term of 5 years. Queen Elizabeth II is currently Queen of Canada and also the monarch of 14 other countries in the Commonwealth. The Queen has linked Canada with 53 other countries that work together to promote social, economic, and cultural interests. Executive power is vested in the Crown and is exercised on the advice of the Privy Council, which is chaired by the Prime Minister and consists of ministers of the Crown. The day-to-day operations and activities of the Government of Canada are carried out by federal ministries and agencies, employees of the Canadian Public Service, and the Canadian Armed Forces. Prime Minister of Canada. One of the main duties of the Crown is to ensure that a democratic government exists, which includes appointing a Prime Minister who heads the Cabinet and directs the activities of the government. The person chosen to be Prime Minister is the person most likely to gain the confidence of the House of Commons in federal elections, usually the leader of the Canadian political party that holds more seats in the House of Commons than any other party. Once sworn in, the Prime Minister holds office until they are removed or dismissed by the Governor-General, following a motion of no confidence or defeat in a general election. Privy Council. The executive is defined in the Constitution Act 1867 as the Crown acting on the advice of the Privy Council of Canada, known as the Queen's Council. However, the Privy Council, made up mostly of former ministers, chief justices, and other elder statesmen, rarely meets in full. In the construction of constitutional monarchies and governments, the advice given is usually binding, meaning that the Queen or King reigns but does not rule, with the Cabinet ruling on the trust of the Crown. However, the royal prerogative rests with the Queen or King, not with any of the ministers. Legislative powers. The Parliament of Canada is the federal legislature, consisting of the elected House of Commons and the Senate, which is nominated by the Prime Minister and the Queen, who grants royal assent to bills passed by both houses. Role of the Crown. The Crown does not participate in the legislative process, but signing a bill passed by both houses of Parliament is considered royal assent, which is required for bills to become law. Members of both houses of Parliament must also pledge their allegiance to the Crown by reciting the Oath of Allegiance. All new MPs must swear this oath before they can take their seats. Furthermore, the official opposition is known as the Queen's Loyal Opposition, to signify that, although they may oppose the policies of the current Cabinet, they are still dedicated to the non-political Crown of Canada. House of Commons. By democratic tradition, the elected House of Commons is the dominant branch of Parliament. The Senate and the Crown rarely go against their will. The 338 members of the House of Commons, known as Members of Parliament (MPs), are directly elected by Canadian citizens, with each member representing a single constituency for a term set by the Canada Elections Act as no more than 4 years, although the Charter of Rights and Freedoms stipulates a maximum term of 5 years. Senate. The upper house of the Canadian Parliament is a group of 105 individuals appointed by the Crown on the advice of the Prime Minister. All appointees must be at least 30 years old, be a subject of the monarch, and possess assets with a net worth of at least $4,000. Senators serve until the statutory retirement age of 75 judicial powers. The Crown is responsible for the administration of justice. However, the Crown does not personally hear cases. Instead, the judicial functions of the Crown prerogative are carried out in trust and on behalf of the Queen by officials of the judicial system. The Supreme Court of Canada has 9 judges appointed by the President on the advice of the Prime Minister and is headed by the Chief Justice of Canada. The Supreme Court of Canada hears appeals from decisions of the various courts of appeal, provincial, territorial, and federal. The federal court hears cases arising under certain areas of federal law and works alongside the Tax Court of Canada. U9JM Batapla GF7X ZF1 L1 5X Ofio URDXR Fu is the MUT1 2 VTM TGGLB V6YX if 21 BDI 5 FG 8 SQS UROM DQ7V Cell PQs KD of MDM CXB FDA Political Culture. Canadian political culture emphasizes liberalism and social justice, which contribute to a distinctive element of Canadian political culture. Individual rights, equality, and a just society have risen to the forefront of political and legal importance for most Canadians, as demonstrated by support for the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. There is a sense of collective responsibility in Canadian political culture, as demonstrated by support for universal health care, multiculturalism, foreign aid, and other social programs. Peace, order, and government, along with several implied bills of rights, are founding principles of Canadian government.